Could you possibly forgive me, Lena? I truly apologize. Are you contrite? The only reason you are sorry is because you were caught. You are such an idiot for having sexual relations with my sister. Dear Lena, I adore you. I am pleading with you to please. Ethan, the fact that you cheated on me is not the first time you've done it, is it? Please, Mr. Lena. I did it just due to the fact that you never pay heed to your words. Because of your employment, you are constantly so busy. Ethan, that is not an acceptable reason. You are a lowlife who is dishonest and disloyal. The only reason I am considered a scumbag is because you never acknowledge the work that I put in. To Lena, it seems as though I am never enough for you. What? You believe you can pull this trick on me right now? You will not believe this. Oh, Lena, please. That was the only time I did it. I love you so much, and she brings back so many memories of you in my head. Can you even hear what you're saying to yourself? This is a pitiful act. Ethan, patiently wait for my attorney to deliver the documents to you. May I, please? And please don't call me again in the future. It's over for you. Greetings, my name is Lena, and I am a highly accomplished physician in my 30s. Not more than a few years ago, I was in the midst of the most significant drama of my whole life. It had been 5 years since Ethan, and I had tied the knot. Over the course of those years, he was employed at my clinic in the capacity of a junior physician. In spite of the fact that I am the same age as my husband, I was able to launch my own clinic at a rather early stage due to the fact that my profile and family history were fairly outstanding. I had nearly grown up to be a physician because both of my parents were medical professionals. Due to the fact that Ethan and I both had very hectic occupations, we did not have any children. My successful work, on the other hand, made me feel like I had everything I needed in my life. Because I had always known that I wanted to become a physician, I put in a lot of effort during my time in college and medical school to make my goal come true. I was rewarded for my commitment. I was so enthusiastic about assisting my patients, and I cherished the work that I did. The things that I had done made me feel a great deal of pride. The situation on Ethan's end was not ideal, despite the fact that my profession was quite satisfying. At one point, he confided in me that he was embarrassed by the fact that he was working for me, although he did not own his own company. I was able to detect that he was unsatisfied with his profession, so I did all in my power to both console and support him. I made sure that he was aware of the fact that I was pleased with him for the effort that he had put forth. I brought to his attention the fact that we were a team and that both of us had contributed to the accomplishments of the clinic. However, it appeared as though Ethan did not place much importance on what I had to say. He was adamant about establishing his own clinic and demonstrating his worth, despite the fact that I was aware that Ethan was not yet prepared for the challenge. Spending a lot of time, energy, and money on it would be required. In spite of this, I made an effort to assist him and did all in my power to prevent accidentally hurting his ego. The passing of my father was a tragic turn of circumstances that I had to deal with. We felt a profound sense of sorrow at his passing because he was a much-loved part of the family. Despite the fact that I was entirely overwhelmed with sadness, I was having a hard time maintaining a balance between my personal and professional lives. The only thing I was able to concentrate on was that. In addition to that, I was responsible for organizing the funeral and carrying out all of the essential responsibilities for the cremation of my late father. To my great regret, I was unable to assist my husband with his clinic to the extent that I would have liked to. When he needed me the most, I was unable to be there for him, and despite the fact that I knew I had excellent reasons for my absence, I felt awful about it. On the other hand, our relationship was going through a challenging period, and for the first time in years, I had the distinct impression that there was a significant gap between us. Almost immediately after the passing of my beloved father, something that was absolutely unexpected took place, as if the circumstances were already overwhelming enough. When the day of his burial arrived, my long-lost elder sister, Sabrina, was there to pay her respects. After all these years, I was taken aback when I finally saw her. Her departure from home occurred when she was 15 years old, and despite our best efforts to get in touch with her, she never returned. Despite the fact that she maintained contact with a few of our family acquaintances, she entirely abandoned us, which is why her surprise arrival made me suspicious. Sabrina was known for courting and marrying wealthy elderly men, only to abandon them the moment they were ill or became bankrupt. This was all part of her character. The thought of her coming back for the inheritance was one that I couldn't help but ponder. In the event that this was in fact the situation, our paternal grandfather would have been devastated. While we were attending the ceremony, my mother disclosed to me that my father had in fact intended to give some real estate to my sister, but with a stipulation attached to it. His intention was for her to check herself into a rehabilitation facility, and if she did not comply, I would be the owner of her property. This information came as a complete surprise to me, and my mother went on to say that Sabrina had, in fact, repeatedly declined to go to rehabilitation. All of my father's holdings were transferred to me as a consequence of this. At the moment that my sister learned about this, she was filled with wrath. During the burial of my own father, she even made a spectacle by accusing me of taking her fortune. I made an effort to reason with her and explain the problem to her, but she refused to consider my explanations. I was left feeling wounded and dissatisfied as a result of her conduct. That she was more concerned about the inheritance than she was about mourning the loss of our father was something that I could not believe. After the funeral was finished, the tension that had been building up between my sister and I continued to be a source of contention. This was a period that was extremely challenging for our family. What came as a complete surprise was when Sabrina returned a few weeks later to apologize for the way she had behaved. She pledged to improve herself and to make atonement for the mistakes she had made in the past. Her sole purpose in coming was to express her regret. She did not even make a request for a portion of the fortune. Because I could see the regret in her eyes, I was certain that she was sincere in the things that she had spoken. Despite my best efforts, I couldn't help but feel compassion for her. At the end of the day, she was my sister. After having a conversation about the situation with my spouse, I made the decision to provide her with assistance. I was aware that my sister had a problematic history, and I did not want to abandon her at a time when she actually required my assistance the most. Since she was having trouble finding work and getting back on her feet, I made her an offer to stay at my apartment for a short period of time. The situation appeared to be favorable for each and every one of us. As I began to feel better and found that I was able to be more present around Ethan, my connection with him began to become slightly more positive. However, was I very wrong? Until one night, when I abruptly woke up because I heard some really weird sounds, I was under the impression that things were beginning to improve gradually. It felt as if someone was groaning in the distance, and the volume of their groaning was so high that it jolted me. When I turned around to look at my husband, I did not see him lying in bed. The moment I found out that he was cheating on me, I instantly went into a state of fear, and my thoughts flashed back to an event that occurred a few years earlier, before we were married. It was nothing more than a foolish kiss that he shared with another female when he was quite intoxicated, and it took place at a house party. Considering that the girl was wearing a shirt that was quite similar to mine, I assumed that it was simply a simple mistake on her part. Following his pleading for my forgiveness, I came to the conclusion that we could move on as a couple and move on from the situation. My thoughts was always plagued by the worry that he might cheat on me once more. In light of this, I requested that he sign a prenuptial agreement on my conditions when he proposed to me. As soon as he heard the news, he agreed to demonstrate his commitment. I sprang out of bed and headed to the living room, keeping it in mind while I did so. I was aware that it was imperative for me to discover the origin of these sounds. While I prayed to God that whatever I was hearing had nothing to do with my spouse, my heart was racing so quickly that it was almost impossible to breathe. On the other hand, the reality was painful. In the room, I could hear my sister laughing, and as I got closer, I could hear her laughing. The moment I walked through the door leading to the living room, I was able to see everything with my own eyes. I looked over and saw him embracing my sister on the couch in our living room. Because I was unable to go much closer to the scene, I refrained from getting any closer to observe what was going on. In terms of my physical health, I was completely ill. My lovely husband was having an affair with my own sister, and I just could not believe it. I was completely shocked. If someone were unwell, they would never do something like that. Imagine that. I had a very difficult time organizing my thoughts in order to make sense of what was taking place. I returned to the upper floor in a stealthy manner, and practically immediately after that, I began to throw up. Leaving the home as soon as I was able to, I got into my car and drove away. Just the thought of spending another moment in the same house with those individuals was too much for me to take. It appeared as though they were aware that I was awake. Nevertheless, they were so heavily intoxicated with each other that they were unaware that I had left. They were such a nasty group of folks. Afterwards, I went to bed and switched off my phone. The following morning, when I woke up, I was overcome with a dreadful feeling about everything. My husband had been phoning and messaging me throughout the whole night, but I had absolutely no desire to communicate with him in any way. Because I was so repulsed by what I witnessed, I was unable to bring myself to argue with him during that time. I made the decision to go to the clinic in order to divert my attention away from the scenario that was so chaotic. I would not be able to work, but at least I would be able to remain in the environment that I am most comfortable with. As soon as I got at the clinic, my assistant informed me that someone had been waiting to speak with me. I was taken aback when I learned that she was not referring to my spouse when she started talking about him. Sabrina was the one. What's going on, Lena? It is imperative that I tell you the truth, yet I am at a loss for words to express it. Our affection for one another has been unwavering. What a load of rubbish. It had been 3 months since you first met each other. To me, you are a repulsive person. I am very sorry, Lena. It is difficult for me to tell you the truth, but I have no choice but to do so. I'm also carrying Ethan's child, which is an additional fact. What is it? You were able to accomplish this, right? It seemed to me that we were sisters. I am very sorry, Lena. To harm you was never my intention. We have a deep affection for one another, and Ethan and I have the desire to establish a family together. Huh. Very well then. What? It is really good then, as I stated. Carry it out. Be his spouse. Obtain his offspring. It is tomorrow that I will divorce him. He is entirely yours. I'm sorry. It's not true. Hello, Sabrina. Goodbye. I was prepared to withdraw from the situation. I didn't want to waste any more time on Ethan or Sabrina, but Sabrina didn't appear to be satisfied with my answers. She quickly revealed the true motivations behind those preposterous apologies. You're behaving assertive now. You know, how does it feel to have something taken away from you? What? It seems that you heard me. Do you believe you could claim my inheritance? Do you feel like the most loved child? Do you believe that you can get whatever you desire? Okay, I ended your life. Sabrina, you're pathetic. What? How could you speak to me in such a manner? Before you got with my husband, did you ask him about a prenup that we had? What prenup? The one who threatened to seize all of our shared assets and $100,000 from him if he ever cheated. You know you'll be broke. You're lying. Sabrina, I'm not. I made Ethan sign a prenuptial agreement before we were married because he had cheated on me once while we were dating. He promised to give up his legal claim to the things we created together if he cheated in the future, and he did, with you. You're not telling the truth. He cherishes me. He would never subject me to that. He informed me how much money he made. He assured me that he would look after me. Oh, you really think that he loves you? I'm certain he does. He declared me to be the love of his life. Oh, Sabrina, it seems to me that he would say that to anyone. You're telling falsehoods. I'm sure he loves me. Okay, let's call him up and see. All right. Right there in front of Sabrina, I pulled out my phone and phoned his number. Ethan answered in less than a second, as though he was anticipating my call. He's on speakerphone now. The scoundrel was weeping uncontrollably. Please pardon me, Lena. I truly apologize. Are you sorry? It's only that you got caught that makes you remorseful. You moron, how could you share a bed with my sister? Lena, you are loved. Please, I implore you, please. Ethan, this wasn't the first time you cheated on me, was it? Please, Lena. I did it solely because you don't seem to care about me. You're constantly working so hard. Oh, Ethan, that is hardly an excuse. You are an untrustworthy, dishonest bastard. The only reason I'm a bastard is that you never acknowledge my efforts. Like I'm never enough for you, Lena. Oh, you believe you can manipulate me now. You're amazing. Please, Lena, it was the only time I did it. She reminds me so much of you, and I love you so much. Do you hear what you're saying? You're pitiful. Ethan, wait for my attorney to deliver the documents to you. Please, and please don't give me another call. You've got the boot. I blocked his phone and hung up. You still think that he loves you? I said, Sabrina, gazing directly into her eyes. There was no reply. Sabrina was staring at me, frightened, enraged, and jealous. I'd had enough of her. I walked away and back into my office. After such a significant tragedy, I had some pretty difficult days. I discovered that my spouse was still required to work 2 jobs in order to pay off the amount he owed me. Sabrina, on the other hand, was too ashamed to be around and fled home once more. As it happened, she had made up the tale that she was carrying Ethan's kid in order to cause me pain. There was no child. She was just a horrible, lonely person. I endured the heartache and betrayal and concentrated on creating a better future for myself. I put all I had into my clinic, aiming to serve as many people as I could, using the money Ethan had to pay me and the fortune given me by my late father. Now that I have constructed something, I am incredibly happy with it, and I know my parents would be really proud of me.